Hey everybody, welcome back to Your Free TV. It is Wednesday, January 28th, 2026. So glad to be back with you here on the channel. I'll jump right in with my disclaimer. This video is for entertainment purposes only. It is protected by the United States Constitution, protecting free speech, as well as the Sullivan Act and reporting. It is not intended to bully or harass anyone, never to incite violence, hatred, or lawlessness of any kind. It doesn't give legal, medical, or financial advice, and there are further disclaimers in the description below. I'm so glad to be back with you here today. We have such incredible and great news. And so I always start off first by saying thank you to everybody supporting the channel. Thank you, Joette, for the donation again. So appreciated. So appreciate you. And I also am going to plug in the beginning of the channel here because as we approach the end of the month, and I'm going to talk about in this video reasons why this product is so important, but I won't be mentioning it then. But basically, c60evo.com/YAFTV. Use the code YAFTV for 10% off. This is the incredible miracle molecule of the sponsor of this channel. And this is the incredible, the same formula used in the Nobel Prize winning studies made in the best lab in Houston, Texas, that basically gets into all of your mitochondria, including all of your neurons. Okay, we're talking about your trillions of cells, including neurons, to clean out the garbage from your mitochondria. And it is so important right now because we're looking at a massive neurodegenerative onslaught that is picking up massively throughout the world, but especially in the United States, with everybody who got the jabs or anybody who has been hugely exposed to people who got the jabs and the spread, etc. Anyway, check it out. And the reason I bring it up in the beginning is because, of course, every month, anybody who donates to the channel gets entered into a giveaway. It's not a giant pool of this channel of the people who support it, but you get entered into a giveaway where 2 bottles are selected for people randomly to give it away of the capsules, which I love because these are the olive oil capsules that hold the most ESS 60 in them. And people are buying, they buy it by the caseloads for the Turbo C, and is, of course, for all of the nervous disorder issues, everything to do with MS, to do with Parkinson's, and everything, going on with basically how they've hit us so hard with the shots. So check it out. If you want to clean out your mitochondria, you want to get the crap out of your cells, check it out below in the description. You'll find ways that you can, if you donate to the channel, you get 15% off. And this company is amazing. They're American, very pro-America, very pro-Maha. And so check it out below. Thanks for listening to the plug. And so we have such incredible news today, and I'm so psyched to get in here. We have the raid, of course, in Fulton County by the FBI going into what is like, some people say it's 300,000 square feet, 600,000 square feet of all of the records of Georgia elections and et cetera. We have an FBI raid going on there right now. And so I'm going to put on the glasses and talk about it. This is amazing. And finally, we're getting something out of Harmeet Dillon that we can, sink our teeth into. This is about the 2020 election steal. And we had heard yesterday where you're hearing out of the Trump administration, Raffensperger should really, really cooperate with the administration here to let us in, to get into the election records in Fulton County, Georgia. And remember, this is Fani Willis. This is all the prosecutions against Trump for trying to steal the election and everything that came out of that. Well, what we're seeing here now is what I'm going to talk about. And we have the FBI raiding basically what is the Fulton County elections storage facility. And this is amazing because in their order, what is the people that actually did the heavy lifting here, people like Cleta Mitchell and Sally Grubbs and all of these incredible patriots who on day one, literally on January 21st of 2021, had already put a protective order out to secure these documents, and this gets into enormous amounts of documents, right? So remember Trump and the big phone call with Raffensperger, Secretary of State. I believe he's now running for governor, where basically they had said, and Kemp before him, who was super in with the Democrats, uniparty, all of it, bringing in the Dominion machines. Remember during COVID, he bought like all of this EPE from China, bringing it into Georgia. All of this. Well, basically, what we're getting here is that the actual order from the FBI and signed by a judge to go in there as a warrant was to take all the ballot images, all of the tabulator images, the voter records, including all of the mail-in ballots, voter records, and this is via the Federal Election Records Act. And so we have the FBI going in. Remember, there was about 300,000 ballots that were um, uh, the steal that happened. We watched what happened in Fulton County in 2020. And so this is huge what is going on when we're finally seeing a raid. It looks like they have crime scene tape all around the area, 700 boxes. We're seeing forklifts going in there and removing all of this evidence out of this huge warehouse where they keep the records of Fulton County in Georgia. So this is massive, this is huge, and of course that's the center of the Georgia government. So big, huge wins here in, of course, the pursuing of the steal of the 2020 election. And I can't be more excited about it. I hope you are too. We have such great news today. And it's important to appreciate the good. It's important to really appreciate the good because there's so much going on that we are, it's a battle ongoing every day for how the Trump administration can reclaim America here, and especially at America 250. It is amazing. And so I wanted to let you know about that this is going on right now. I'll follow up on it tomorrow when we see what they actually seized. I don't know if we'll know anything that soon, but it is really incredible to watch this going on in real time. We have two members of the Georgia Election Board basically being refused entry into the building, trying to get in there, and it's all ongoing right now. So fantastic. I'll link what I can below for you to watch it, to see for yourself. But this is incredible news, and we are, yes, this is what we've been fighting for here for the last 6 years, and it is amazing to watch it happen, or last 5 years, and here we go. So fantastic news there, and I'm going to move on from there. I wanted to mention, of course, we've seen that the officers in the Alex Pretty shooting in Minneapolis have been put on regular administrative leave. There does seem to be, like, even Stephen Mitchell coming out, Stephen Miller, excuse me, Stephen Miller, Chief of Staff for Domestic Policy. Stephen Miller even coming out and saying this is a little dodgy what happened there with the shooting of Pretty. And this kind of revamping of what's going on with ICE in Minnesota. All the while, we have the Treasury Department, we have Bessent creating his teams to go after all the fraud and follow up on all of the money involved and the organizations involved. And so that's all happening, but we are seeing that there's $1.6 million that's been raised for Alex Pretty, who's dead, supposedly his family, or I don't know. But no, they organize and create these FFs, just like what happened with Omar yesterday in her town hall, where this guy who obviously is a Democrat operative sprays her from a syringe with some liquid. She doesn't even care, doesn't take off her shirt, doesn't worry that she's just been poisoned with anthrax or something else. And it's all a staged event. whatever besides. But what we're seeing here with the GoFundMe in the fine print is people like Fig Scrubs donating something like $25,000 to this. They are a healthcare industry operation that is connected with Blackstone, very interestingly. And, remember all the Signalgate information coming out, all the 5,000 people involved in this Signal operation exposed by Cam Higbee. And we're seeing that they are getting nervous. But this $1.6 million in the GoFundMe fine print, when you look in there, basically it says that if we cannot give all this money to the family of Preti for some reason, I mean, as if they wouldn't want it, basically it's all going to go to the Immigrant Defense Project, the Immigrant Defense Project NGO. And so there you go, refunding the battle, refunding what will on March 28th become the next No Kings rally. That's what's that's what's happening, and we're seeing people like Linda Sarsour, uh, uh, with Neville Singham. Remember Neville Singham, huge donor outside of Alex Soros, but his wife is the director and the person in charge of Code Pink. Remember the leak that where Code Pink was allowed to go into the Washington restaurant where they harassed President Trump and Besant, etc. Well, Singham, as I've talked about multiple times on this video, he lives in China, okay, and he is American, but has basically just living his whole life in China and funding all of this unrest along with Soros et al., Tides Foundation, all of it, Arabella Investments, everything. And basically, Linda Sarsour, who is the mentor of Mamdani, to bring him in to take over New York City, London style, like Sadiq Khan, she is saying that we will bring this country to a halt. And this is leading up to some March 28th. We know that they've always talked about May Day of 2026 being the massive strike across the board of every leftist union that they can get their claws into to shut down our government. But they're already trying to shut down the government over the DHS spending on ICE. We're seeing Murkowski and Tillis going in with the Dems to ask for Noam's uh, uh, stepping down, asking for her resignation, etc. And so we're seeing that this is all basically being planned for later this spring. And, they like it when the weather's a little better. But this is a huge anti-ICE network nationwide. And this Linda Sarsour's testimony that they will bring this country to a halt to stop the deportations of basically criminals out of our country. And so, very interesting. We will see, but we literally need mass insurrection arrests. This has to happen. If we don't, if Trump he keeps playing this card behind the scenes, we know that people like Frey, people like Waltz, Ellison, Omar, et al. Are captured in so much interconnection with the Signal expose. But beyond that, the fraud, okay, the massive money laundering fraud that is all of our taxpayer dollars, and the Minnesotans' state taxpayer dollars and Californian state taxpayer dollars across the board, Maine, New York, all of it coming so clearly. And so this is the fight is for the money. And we have people like Eric Prince coming out, of course, out of his Blackwater, um, uh, you know, um, what is his private army situation that he's been running for decades, but and also doing the unplugged phone, which apparently even the CIA can't hack. If you can afford one, that costs about $1,000, unplugged.com. But basically, what he's saying is that we need to have deputization happen. And I think that's a good thing, but it could get really unruly. He's talking about the Pinkertons, way back in the Wild West, where you had the Pinkerton um, organization that acted as bounty hunters way back when, to basically capture who all the sheriffs were after, as all the crime was being committed during the settling of the West. But basically saying, bounty hunters, ex-military, should be deputized to help out ICE. It's an interesting consideration. But anyway, we also have Trump doing an amazing thing today, of course, with the incredible Trump accounts for the kids, and we're going to get there in a second. But basically, what he's saying is that we really, and Besant came up and said it really clear. We really want at 250. Well, we've survived what was almost the destruction of our country through the globalist cartel Babylon takeover and demolition of our infrastructure and supply chains. We want this next generation, after these have suffered so hard leading up to this time, to be set up with financial education and also with the seed money to go forward. And we saw the Trump Account Summit happen today, which I'm going to get into in a moment. But I wanted to talk about something else first, a couple things first. One is this issue of the TSA, and while we've suffered through this horrible surveillance state since 9/11 and the creation of DHS and the creation of mass surveillance, NSA, et cetera, what we're looking at now with the TSA is this forward motion on this digital ID and digital wallet situation. And February 1st, coming up in a few days, everybody flying that doesn't have the real ID yet will have to pay $45 before they can get on a flight. This is literally within 3 days from now, right? Remember last March, it was Noam saying, hey, you got to get your real ID by March 1st. And now it is the TSA is because obviously so many people don't want to. Americans do not want all of their information concentrated into one digital real ID. Well, now TSA, this $45 fee I've been talking about now for a month, is now going into effect. And basically, you will have to go ahead and pay $45 if you don't have the real ID. And this can only be done online. You can't do it at the airport, just pay them cash or whatever. You have to do it online again to get you captured digitally online with your information, obviously your email and your phone number, and then everything else that will require to validate your already state issued ID. Okay, that should be validation enough. And what they're basically saying, you need this pre-verification code or receipt, either the code, the QR code on your phone, or some kind of printed out receipt or something before you come to the airport. If you don't do it, you'll have to go through it there through their kiosks. But then you will also, even if you have it, you're still going to have to go through some kind of screening method when you get to the airport. And this is against our constitutional rights. It is an absolute invasion of our privacy. As US citizens who already get state IDs, we should not have to go through this, but hence setting up the system so that in the blue states you can have illegals getting licenses and state IDs, et cetera, and how it all seems to work together somehow towards this digital prison. And TSA should be abolished. And this very interesting situation that, of course, most TSA workers are not American. They barely speak English. They are from foreign countries. And this is the whole system of they don't care about you because they aren't American. And so they will want to, in their minds, you're an enemy somehow for entertainment purposes only. But that is the experience of so many millions of Americans going through TSA, not to mention the Safe Skies Project and all of that so many people were subject to under the Biden regime, the Mayorkas, DHS. And so very interesting to watch this. And I also wanted to mention that now it's coming out really clear, but still no arrests, still no major arrests, that $3.5 billion in Act Blue, what they call smurfing fraud, where they're basically just keep stealing money out of accounts of people who did or did not donate, okay, to these campaigns. $3.5 billion, okay? And there's something like $10 billion that is still under, that they're still looking into because it's like unrecorded receipts, okay? Basically, there's no money trail. They can't find out where this 10 billion in Act Blue came from or went to. And so this is all, of course, again, the great Scott Bessent out of Treasury and his IRS leading these investigations with Act Blue. But we would really like to see some indictments that aren't just of bureaucrats. Okay, how about everybody who received this money? And on that front, we have, of course, HRC and Bill Clinton coming out, full bore supporting, the anti-ICE protests and trying to gain some clout for their imminent, what basically should be criminal charges against them for their contempt of court. And we want them to get that contempt of court charges enormously. And of course, then we have Spanberger, and I wanted to put this up here. I wrote on there HRC 2.0. That is Spanberger, the new governor of Virginia, who I believe is really going to go for the 2028 election. Going full bore, super hard. She has her lieutenant governor is an Islamist. She's an Islamist. She trained jihadis way back in the day around 9/11 in Virginia. She's ex-CIA and no CIA operative. Anybody out of the CIA should ever be able to run for any office. It should be illegal. Look at Elise, what's her name, out of Michigan, part of the Seditious Six. Sorry that I can't remember her last name right now, but Spanberger is being, looked at as kind of a Bond villain figure because she is working so hard and so fast, and her crazy AG, who he's the one that wanted to kill his opponent's kids and all this insanity. They're working real hard to try to grab Virginia for the deep state before the midterm elections, which they've done, but also in the election steal. She is the one who's also trying to have it be no paper ballots whatsoever, only machine voting with no basic records. That what happened with the FBI raid in Georgia today. Basically, they'd be able to erase all their evidence immediately with only machine voting, etc. So we're going to keep looking at her as well as others, and we also have our own problem, in the Republican regime with this push of JD Vance. And I linked it yesterday, but I'll link it again today of Julie Green and her Julie Green Ministries, where she does prophetic word, and she has come out basically, I think it was January 21st, where she had come out and said, well, in my prophetic word and what I do, in my messages from God, she has come out and called JD Vance the Great White Wolf. The Great White Wolf that is the saboteur of America First agenda going forward. And I bring that up here because I consistently do not trust J.D. Vance, and especially since the Charlie Kirk murder, do not trust him and have never. And I've said that so often on this channel, even though sometimes I might love some of the things he's said, but his attendance of the Charlie Kirk body out of Utah, the all of it. Okay, very very strange. And my worry is they're going to do something for 2028 like a Vance Johnson 2028, like a Mike Johnson VP, just kind of getting rid of all those nitpicky people, even Rubio, who just testified for a couple hours before the Senate Intelligence Committee today about Venezuela and other things, is performing better. But I think Johnson is somebody that they are really going to push here into this next 2028 election, whether he is with Vance or they compete in the election and then Vance chooses him if he gets the primary, and it's all being signaled up. But we did have Trump yesterday in Iowa, and again even today at the summit that he did for the Trump children accounts, which are amazing and fantastic, to create financial literacy for children, plus $1,000 for every new child in the United States, every American citizen that is born. And I believe that some of these, that they're not quite the same, but some kids that are already born up to 10 years old can get a not quite $1,000, would get something like $250 to start accounts. Great stuff. But Trump is continuously still saying, and as we look at this FBI raid in Fulton County, Georgia, um, that maybe there will be another Trump term, and we just need him to get his health as number one concern. And we have representatives out there wanting to put him on Mount Rushmore, and I am 100% behind it. That Trump should absolutely be on Mount Rushmore as we go forward. And so I want to mention a couple things. Speaking of Hillary Clinton and Bill Clinton coming out to try to divert the attention away from their criminality, we now have a new person, Dr. Raymond Pierre, kind of being pushed by the it's hard to say, kind of rhino Republican. We're not sure yet. I'm looking into him. It might take a couple days, where he wants to be the next prime minister of Haiti. And of course, the destruction of Haiti, the Clintons, George W. Bush, all of it, Bill Clinton, George W. Bush raising, I think, over $1 billion for Haiti after the earthquake, and the destruction of Haiti, where it was just destroyed. Okay, and the Haitians have been destroyed over and over. But they're putting up Dr. Raymond Pierre as a Republican to go in as a prime minister. He's in America, and he's basically saying, you don't want the Haitians here in America. We will bring them all back to Haiti. We need to reconstruct Haiti and rebuild Haiti. And just remember, with HRC, her brother, who was given the only gold mining lease in Haiti, because the Haiti is a very rich mineral and precious metals area. We're seeing, of course, silver going through the roof right now. So amazing. But basically saying that and HRC's brother, who got that, and Clinton Global Initiative, and as they got that, and Clinton Global Initiative started by the Epsteins, got that lease for her brother. He's now dead. He's dead. He's dead. It was like, yeah, you didn't pull that off, so now you're dead. Join the Ark Incited group. And so this Raymond Pierre, we don't know. He's basically saying that we will rebuild Haiti, and of course they want that American money to do so. And might do this new Gaza 2.0, just another, like, let's rebuild another country. How about rebuilding America and rebuilding Middle America and all those storefronts that are all closed up, and everybody who's been so screwed over, and having the small businesses destroyed prior to, and then of course COVID. How about let's do it there? Let's just infuse tons of money that is absolutely given to patriots to rebuild our towns. But basically, he is saying we want to align with the USA and make sure that China and the CCP does not swoop into Haiti, grab all the goods, and what Raymond Pierre is saying is that we want our neighbors. Our neighbors are our family. We are Haiti. This is America, and we want to be aligned with America and not with the CCP. So that's really good on that level. And so going back to the Trump accounts, and then I want to get into some of the health issues, the big med um, grab that's still going on, that RFK Jr. is fighting so hard. But I will talk about the Trump accounts. We have Visa even announcing that they're going to be creating a donation a platform through Visa where your cash back rewards could go into, that you could choose and opt that instead of your cash back rewards, you could put that money into accounts for kids. And we have, is it Shake Shack? I don't think it was Steak and Shake. Shake Shack or Steak and Shake? I don't know. Steak and Shake, I think, has the um, beef tallow fries. But we have multiple new companies stepping up, saying they're going to match Dell and other companies who have come forward to help form these accounts for children. And I think this is really fantastic because as we look at this, at the Trump Account Summit today, it opened with a prayer, which is fantastic. And we have to, you know, kind of look at, Scott Bessent. He got up there. He said we have a tsunami of support from so many companies trying to get, everywhere from hedge funds to Maha moms wanting to be involved in supporting these Trump kids accounts. And Nicki Minaj getting up there with President Trump and saying, this, I'm your number one fan, Trump, and them standing there holding hands. This is all while Melania Trump's new documentary or film is getting released on the 30th of this month, called Melania 20 Days in History, all talking about the lead up to Trump's, of course, inauguration last year. And this movie is coming out, and there's supposedly some weird stuff about the director, Brett Ratner, who apparently had some sexual harassment complaints about him, and that he was a big a-hole. So I don't know what's going on there. I got to look more into it. But this is out of Amazon, Bezos, stronghold. And so this is a big fight, of course, with Netflix and the Obama control. It's like this war of these production companies that belong to the richest people in the world, and this kind of fight back to take back Hollywood that's also going on. I believe that's also involved in this executive order to do with the re-permitting of the rebuilding of California, the Palisades, Eaton area. This, massive Hollywood people, okay, are from there. And so we're seeing this going down. Trump did announce today at this summit, this children's account summit, the Trump accounts. He basically, had Lee Zeldin being picked to be in charge of getting the fast track on the permits in California, following up on the executive order to override Governor Newsom, trying to keep the federal government out of it after stealing tons and tons and tons of millions of dollars for it. And so we'll see what goes down. Melania Trump was at the New York Stock Exchange this morning announcing her film at 11 Wall Street. They went full board. They were talking about how George Washington took his oath of office right around the corner. It was at Wall Street and Broad, and they were laying it heavy with the Patriot stuff there, and it's true. But basically talking about the intersection of capitalism and liberty and the capital markets. And I think there was like some massive, huge stock exchange boom today that beat all records of all time, something like 7,000 points or whatever. So that all is truly happening. But it's very interesting to look at this. Look at this go down. And so as we look at this Trump account summit, and I'm going to get into Rubio, I'm going to get into also some major stuff to do with the shots, the jabs that are causing huge prion disease that people really need to uh, uh, get out of their bodies, these folded toxic proteins. But in a moment. But as we look at here with the Trump Account Summit, um, what we're seeing, what we heard from Besant is Scott Besant. He said there is a unity in this country in the desire to empower our children through a material stake in the American dream. Basically, at that point when he said that, this baby cried in the audience, and he said, "Oh, there's an investor right there." It was pretty classic. And he basically said 3.6 million American citizens will be born this year, and we want a generational down payment on the American dream as a key to securing the next 250 years of American success with free markets and the ability for people to create their lives without the interference of the government. And so he said every American born will be an asset owner with these new bank accounts. And I think that's fantastic. And financial literacy that Besson is talking about should be hugely part of this because, um, my hope is that what will go along with it in the educational process going forward, as a whole of education is being reformed, and they got to tackle this charter school problem because Islamists are using the charter schools, Fulton County in Texas, the massive lead up to the huge Islamist takeover in so many states is connected to the charter schools. And all the money that's connected with charter schools. It's a whole nother fraud situation, plus, cartel Babylon invasion. But, however, as I was saying, we need financial literacy to go in with these Trump accounts, that the kids who get them should also have some sort of program that goes with them to teach them about finance and financial literacy, what it means to be to learn about how capitalism works, how the markets work, how they are stewards of this money. Okay, because otherwise they could just end up at 18 with maybe 50 grand in their incredible account that was created by the Trump administration and just blow it on something. So it'd be really nice to see some educational requirements or additional as intellectual assets that go along with this program. But it was really, really exciting to see, and it was really fun to see Nicki Minaj up there, and she's one who's also contributing to these Trump accounts, and it gave Trump a little boost to have her up there today, and her saying she's his number one fan, etc. And so going from there, I think I want to get into real quick Governor Abbott, because as we saw Signalgate being exposed in Minnesota, we immediately saw Governor Abbott in Texas blocking the government, any government official from using Signal. And you have to wonder if that is to take down whatever all has been going on Signal in Texas. I would assume so. Abbott is a very squirrely, both sides character. They're fighting Sharia law in, in Texas, huge. They're fighting it in Oklahoma. They're fighting it in multiple states, and it's going well. But we also had Abbott halting, and this is great, and this comes out of Sarah Gonzalez and what I reported on her the other day with the H-1B visa body mills, where out of the Tamil Brahmins out of India, where we're getting this huge H-1B, huge cash cow machine where people are indentured servants. Half their money that's already at the lowest wages that are brought in from India goes to the people who sponsor them. These fake LLCs, fake corporations of these hiring companies. And what we have here with Abbott, he's halting all H-1B visa processing in Texas. And so again, it's always good and bad. You never quite know the side that Abbott is on. Often it is protecting his own butt. And so we'll see what goes on there. So that is good news, very interesting. And we're also hearing out of the Venezuela front that the USA is putting Laura Dogue, I believe her name is Dogue, Laura Dogue, who had previously been involved in um, Ecuador and Honduras, going to create a new ambassadorship to Venezuela, now re-establishing a U.S. embassy in Venezuela, in Caracas, and they're going to put this woman in as the diplomat. Okay, and this is both good and bad, but we'll see. We had Rubio today in his testimony talking about Venezuela, saying, no, 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 this Delcy Rodriguez is absolutely temporary. We are just trying to get there to be enough money to fund the government there for the people, and we're in charge of the operations and the money. But it looks like the money's being held in Qatar, okay, in some bank account in Qatar, and that 300 million of it, there's 500 million. And this had to do with the sale of the crude oil, and this went through. The selling of the crude oil for immediate purposes went through, like a Trump allied um, uh, oil person who was able to do this quickly, um, and and basically they're saying, well, there's 300,000, 500,000, 500, excuse me, 500 million came from these immediate sales, 300 million of it already dispersed to the Venezuelan government. What's going on with the other 200 million? And Rubio kind of saying, well, no, that's still there. It's in the account. And, we're going to be watching where it goes. But basically, what he's saying is that they might be going after what are the basically the paramilitary, Tren de Aragua, etc., gangs that were armed and created by the Cartel del Sols to control the people. Even though some political prisoners are being released, it's still not fully what it should be. And he couldn't really say how long it's going to take before there will be elections in Venezuela, but that there could be a situation to clean up these gangs terrorizing the country. And of course, Delcy Rodriguez, in charge of the torture centers, the stepdaughter of Carlos the Jackal, fully like psychopathic crazy person with her brother, her twin brother. And so very kind of squirrely with Rubio, but he was really good on other things with NATO. He said NATO needs to be renewed. There are no plans in the USA to pull out, but NATO has to be um, military capable to protect its own countries, that Europe basically has to basically be able to protect itself, that USA needs to regroup into what is a hemispheric defense, that this is coming up rapidly. The attack on the USA, the near destruction of it, has absolutely changed USA defense policy. And he's saying that's what Greenland's about. And he's also saying that with Ukraine, the situation is that the reason Zelensky is it won't sign the peace deal without a USA backstop in the security guarantees, is because they know that Europe has no army, that Europe can't do it. They have nothing that could actually be some sort of security guarantee against Russia, the big Russia, and that's what he's saying. He's saying, if the U.S. is going to be the backstop, all that means is that it's going to be the U.S. as a security guarantee, because Europe has no military might or creation of that yet. So very interesting as we watch that. And Rubio also at the Senate Foreign Intelligence Committee today also said that we are likely going after transnational trafficking, racketeering organizations. That's what we're seeing with the taking out of the ships with the drug trafficking, but it's a larger situation because the elites, the no names that run the planet through their economy of sin, all operate through these transnational trafficking, racketeering organizations, with all of the illicit money from the drugs, the sex trafficking, the child trafficking, the organ trafficking, all of the things that are off the books is how these people make their money, including our own CIA, hence why it gets complicated. And basically saying that under Trump, they're going after the international, the massive interconnections of these transnational organizations, and they must be taken down. He said they are operating and armed like nation states. They have as much weaponry, military level weaponry as nation states, and they are absolutely very, very dangerous. And with that, I just wanted to kind of bring back to people's attention this situation with Bella One. Bella One was that one oil tanker that was seized way up again up in the close to the Arctic, up in the North Atlantic, that had been chased by the U.S. Navy all that way, and then you had a Russian sub come and protect it, changing the flag. Basically, what it came out on that is that there was, as I've been predicting and saying, 3 tons of gold on that ship. And there were about, and Rubio said this today in the Senate testimony. He said that we had 5 or 6 ships try to immediately leave Venezuela as Maduro was captured, and that we only know about this Bella One with this 3 tons of gold, but you can imagine that there was tons and tons more gold, and this had to do with the IRGC out of Iran and CCP, and so this is where we're getting into all of this situation of the money, the gold, the precious metals, and the resources, and what Rubio, basically had to say. That isn't Rubio talking about the 3 tons of gold on the Bella One. That's come out of other sources, but basically what we're looking at here is that the U.S. Treasury um, it will be auditing every single dollar spent through Venezuela, and that the oil that has been sanctioned and taken will be sold at market value, and absolutely observed how it's spent within Venezuela. Basically, can only be spent on programs of supply chain for the people, food, healthcare services, this kind of thing. So we'll see if that happens. And what Rubio also had to say was that there was the removal of what they had as their carbon Agenda 2030 rule, where they had fooled the people into believing that they're not developing their oil, they're not developing their fossil fuels, etc., because of this Agenda 2030 and the Green Planet crap. And instead, they absolutely were just giving it to the CCP, selling it at a discounted price, and that is been removed, their carbon reduction laws. So that is good. That is good news. And I also will just mention that the U.S. now finally, as Trump has made these deals with the U.S. Steel, et cetera, in Japan, that the U.S. has surpassed Japan in their steel production, in our steel production, for the first time since 1999. That's great news. Japan supposedly buying $1 billion in ethanol, as Trump announced yesterday in Iowa. I'm not a fan. That's how. How about Middle America? Instead of soybeans and corn, we get us some organic farming, Russia style. How about we get us some actual food that now you go to the supermarket, everything's disgusting, and it's not from the USA, and there's no reason for that. If we could get our farming back to actual food instead of corn oil, corn oil, ethanol, or soybean crap, then we could actually feed ourselves and be the healthiest, strongest people on the planet if we had good food. Now that RFK Jr. and the Maha movement has, revamped and upside downed the the food table, etc., to get us on the right track. And I believe Japan's government is going into crisis, even though their prime minister seems to be great, but they are uh, having a huge sort of breakdown of government there in Japan as there's fight against her with, of course, the end of the Japan carry trade situation that was carrying so much of hedge funds. And so I'm sure we can assume that we have operatives out of BlackRock and Vanguard, et cetera, that were using all of this free free money that they were getting with this zero amount interest on trading in yen instead of dollars, and just creating this whole Ponzi scheme, that they are attacking the Japanese government. So we'll see what comes out of that. And Trump has gone full bore also today against South Korea, who, of course, they have just put the former prime minister, is it Sun Yun, I can't remember. I'm sorry, I don't have it in front of me, but they have just put the former prime minister of South Korea, who was trying to block the CCP from taking over South Korea, and a huge patriot movement there to align with the USA, but to stop the Chinese from taking over South Korea. They put him in prison, and for something like 20 years plus. Okay, he's in jail, just like Bolsonaro in Brazil. And Trump has now come out and saying he's going to massively tariff South Korea because they're not coming forward. They're not performing on the trade deal they made with the USA, with the tariffs, etc. And so we'll see what goes on there, but it is pretty important. And I'm going to end it here. I didn't think I would go this far, but I wanted to talk about coming out of Del Bigtree. And of course, he just put out recently in the last couple of months his new documentary, An Inconvenient Study, or maybe the last month. I don't know. It seems like forever. But basically, inconvenient study to do with, of course, child deaths from the COVID jabs and injury, and how they didn't expect there to actually be real studies that showed this, but he has proved that in his movie. But what he's coming out and warning about is that there's massive prion disease. This is mad cow disease. This is, spongiform encephalopathy, basically the eating up of your brain, not to mention your other organs, to do with the shots. And this is the folded, of course, spike proteins, the mRNA, and these are malformed and electron stealing proteins that come in, and they form what is the circulating microclot clusters, those big spongy things we've seen from the autopsies with all of the coroners, or the people at the funeral homes, pulling out of people that they can't embalm because they just have these giant white spongy things. Well, this becoming now a huge issue with brain health across the board, and I think has hugely to do with why people are acting so crazy. But we're seeing massive, huge Alzheimer's, dementia, mental health problems, degenerative nervous disorders, whether it's MS, Parkinson's, or just huge brain fog, huge mental disorders. And that's why I recommend, again, the product, c60evo.com/YFTV, because this is, you need to clean out your neurons. And this is becoming, what they're going to be using, and I'll be getting into this more tomorrow, what they're going to be using as an excuse for the new eugenics, to basically attempt to have assisted suicide programs here in the US, just like they do in Canada, to try to kill off all of these people that they already damaged and destroyed their longevity and their lives and their quality of life through these shots. And people need to detox and get this crap out of their bodies. And the things that do it, along with C60 Evo, this incredible ESS60 carbon 60 molecule that gets into your brain and gets into your body and all your trillions of cells and cleans garbage out with your glutathione and melatonin, is things like also parasite killing things like ivermectin, of course, hydroxychloroquine. And for people with severe, and again, I don't give medical advice on this channel, but with people who are experiencing neurological problems where it is at the point where you kind of are having a dementia-like response, a dementia type situation, you don't recognize yourself, you can't think clearly, you can't even kind of grasp reality. I would also just mention that fluvoxamine, which is one of the original SSRIs, and it is highly non-toxic. It's kind of like ivermectin in the sense that it's not that it does it couldn't have long-term SSRI problems, but it's pre uh, pre all the SSRIs that became famous in the 80s and 90s, et cetera. I think it's early 80s, fluvoxamine, interesting name, but it actually kills these viral things in the brain. And so I just wanted to put that out there that people who are dealing with family members that have these kind of situations developing, and also that, or you yourself, that you check out fluvoxamine, and only for like a 10-day period, okay, just to kill the crap in your brain and from the big med biowarfare. And that this is, a fight that's going on because the big med industry, especially the organ harvesting industry, they're planning on a huge glut, okay, of organs they can take, of people who will opt for assisted suicide rather than live through these conditions, but also being pushed huge in lobbies here in the US after Canada has been doing this now for years and advancing it. In the USA, the MAID program, which is the MAID Suicide Assistance Program in Canada, in the US, there's something called the Compassion and Choices Program, which is very similar, and it is already in 12, going on 13 states in the US: Hawaii, California, Colorado, Delaware, Illinois, Montana, New Jersey, New Mexico, Oregon, Vermont, DC, and also Washington State, and now New York. And this is where they're trying to bring in this assisted suicide for what is the outcome, 4 or 5 years later, of the bioweapon assault on the brains and bodies of people. And so I will get more into that tomorrow. Let's just remember that after this massive Arctic freeze storm that we've all just been through, that if Texas, for instance, had not gotten its coal plants fired back up and everything ECOT and what was Biden's energy czar, and then she ended up leaving the office or whatever, who had her husband was what was her name? Can't remember at the moment, but her husband was super involved with all this green energy scam sales, hedge fund related to that, who controlled ECOT. And then in Texas a few years ago, with that ice storm that went through, you had hundreds of people die because there was no power, etc. What we just had there in Dallas and in Texas with this massive ice storm, if those coal plants had not been fired back up through the Trump administration, we would have seen many, many, many more fatalities than we saw. So we thank God every day, okay, for Trump and his administration, and we pray, pray, pray for his protection and for the people around him. None of them are perfect. It's not about perfection. It is about the turning around in the 250th year of the USA for there to be a new tomorrow, and also for the USA to remain a beacon, America, as the city on the hill, right? And that's what we're here for. So I hope you found something useful from this video. If you found something that was added value, or just gives you some more oomph and fuel for your fight going forward in the truth, and you want to support the channel, there are ways to do so below, and I so appreciate you doing so. And other than that, let's just stay frosty, right? Let's just stay in our armor of God, completely connected to the Holy Spirit that is telling you what to do through your faith. And kick out those footholds and especially any of those strongholds that Satan might hold in your life. If there's something that's distracting you that isn't good, that takes up your time and takes you away from your best efforts and your best self, that's the stronghold, and that's the thing you want to get it out, right? And so let's get it out. Let's exercise our freedom and our intellect and our cognitive abilities, and also our heart, and just tons of love, tons of effort towards freedom for humanity as we fight cartel Babylon right up to the gates of hell. You are free, and I will see you tomorrow.